Hey guys, should be a pretty quick, simple video for you. We're going to do this prayer gathering on Sunday, very similar to how we did it last month because things went really well. Um, but a lot of you are new to doing this, and so I wanted to give you a video just to help you be as prepared as possible. At this point, I'm not sure what order you guys are going to be going in or who all is going to be even leading a prompt on Sunday. But by the time you receive this video from me, you should have gotten the order, what topic you're going to be praying over. You should have gotten a slideshow that has your slide on it. And I'll also give you a timestamp of what portions of this video you actually need to watch. So like I said, we're going to do it very similar to last month. In fact, everything is going to be exactly the same except for the time that we give students on each topic. Last month we did 6 minutes. We're just going to increase that slightly to 7 minutes this month. Seemed like students were focused, still flipping through scripture, still in prayer every time we transitioned last month, and so we're going to give them a little extra time. And that's something I'd like to see us increase every month as we do this, and enable ourselves to focus and pray for a little bit longer. So that'll be the one small change. And so you guys are going to need to know who is going before you, who's leading the prompt before you. And when they're done with their prayer and they go back and sit down, you will set a timer on your phone or on your watch or something for 7 minutes. Please set something that's not going to go off like an alarm, but something that you can keep an eye on. And when 7 minutes is up, then you'll go up, introduce your topic, say a prayer, and go sit down, and then that's the end of your role. And so really you just need to know who's going before you, and know when to set that timer, and then you just need to know your topic well. When you go up and introduce your topic, this is for everybody. You don't need to read off of the slideshow. Don't read all of the bullet points of what we're praying over. Students can do that themselves. So familiarize yourself with the topic. Maybe come up with a short summary of what we're praying about and why we're praying about it, but don't read off of the whole slide. Don't spend way too much time introducing it. And then your prayer, again, for everyone, doesn't need to be super long. It doesn't need to be elaborate. It doesn't need to cover every bullet point on the slide. But we do want it to be an example for students. The 4 people that are leading students in prayer this week are somewhat modeling what prayer should look like for our students. And so it is okay for you to think ahead of time of what you're going to pray about, what you're going to pray for, how that's going to look, so that you can put a good but semi-short model prayer for students up there over your topic. And so that's what I'd like to see things look like. That's the general instructions for everybody, so you should be able to skip at this point to your specific slide. All right, the first thing we're going to be praying over is the use of our time. And so again, familiarize yourself with this slide. This is kind of similar to how we opened up our time a month ago. We prayed for, we gave students a time of confession and to ask the Lord for help in their prayers. This is another time that should move into a time of confession. This is a time for students to evaluate their lives, specifically how they use their time, confess to the Lord where they've used their time poorly, and then ask God for help to reform that and change that in the future. And so that's why we're praying over this. Time is such an important commodity that we all have, something that we need to steward well, and something that everyone shares in common. We all have the same time. We all need to use it well. And so this is something that everyone can pray over, and everyone probably has areas where they could do better in the use of their time. So familiarize yourself with this slide. Go up and introduce it. I'll be doing announcements at the beginning, and so I'll announce the few things that we have coming up in the ministry, and then I'll call you up to introduce that topic, and you can introduce it, say your prayer, and go sit down, and you'll be done for the day. Okay, second thing we're going to be talking about is the rendezvous, or the second thing we'll be praying about. Originally, this was the design that we would have a morning of prayer every time that we had a rendezvous gathering. We got thrown off last month because of the church potluck, but we're moving back on that schedule this month and should be that way throughout the rest of the semester. This gives us a a really cool opportunity, I think, for students to pray over the guests that they're going to be bringing that night. Guests that are not connected to a church, likely don't know the Lord, and they can pray for their salvation. That is a powerful thing. And so I'm excited for students to be able to do that. It also gives other students an opportunity to pray for students that they could invite, or students that they should be inviting to this, people in their lives that they know don't know Christ, that they could be bringing to hear the good news of the gospel. And so it gives everybody an opportunity to pray specifically for friends and family members, people in their life that don't know the Lord. It also gives them a chance to pray over our student band and the message that evening. So those are the main things we're going to be praying over. Again, after whoever's going first finishes their prayer, you'll set a 7-minute timer. When that 7 minutes is up, you go ahead and go forward. The music will get shut off, and you can introduce this topic and then say your prayer. You can use scripture in that prayer if you want, but don't poach the scripture off of this slide. Leave that for students to use. So if you have a scripture that you want to include in your prayer, that's great, but try not to use the ones that are already up there. You'll say your prayer, go sit down, and you'll be done for the morning. All right, next thing we're going to be praying over is Adopt a Family that we're doing here at the church. You want to introduce to students and leaders what this is, although that should have already been introduced upstairs a couple times. This is a ministry, that we're doing at the church where families can come and sign up for a meal for Thanksgiving and sign up for presents for Christmas. We get an opportunity to welcome the community into our doors, to love on them, to pray with them sometimes, and a lot of times to point them back where they'll be coming here to pick up gifts and also hear a gospel message. And so we want to pray over the servants that are serving in that ministry. We want to pray that God would bring more people to serve, and we want to pray over the families that they would not just have their physical needs met, but also their spiritual needs. And so, again, familiarize yourself with this slide about Adopt a Family. Summarize that quickly as you introduce the topic, and let people know what Adopt a Family is. And then you'll say your prayer over this area. You can use scripture in your prayer if you want, but please don't poach the scripture off of this slide. So if you want to use scripture in your prayer, that's fantastic, but leave the scripture that is already set up on this slide for students to use in their prayers. And so, when the second person finishes, the person praying over the rendezvous, when they finish their prayer, set a 7-minute timer. When that 7 minutes is up, you go ahead and take it upon yourself to go forward, introduce your topic, pray, and then go sit down, and you'll be done for the morning. All right, last thing we're going to be praying over, and this one I do know who it's going to be. This is going to be you, Josh, praying over the world. We're praying over the Yemen this morning. And so you want to point back to last week in life groups. Unfortunately, my life group didn't actually get to this portion because we had an interesting time of discussion, lots of questions and stuff, which was great. But we didn't actually get here about the fact that we're being challenged to pray over the world. But I think your group did. And so point them back to that we just came off of the series on Radical that's challenging us to pray over the lost people groups of the world, and this is one of them. Students should have a handout in their hands that from the Joshua Project about the Yemen people. This is a people group that is in great need. So we've got some statistics on the slide. It's less than 0.1% Christian. There's no Christian movement. There's no translation of the Bible. There's no oral scriptures being taught or broadcasted over the radio or TV in this area. And it's the 5th most persecuted area in the world. So this area, the Yemen people have great need for the gospel, and we're going to take time to pray over that. And so familiarize yourself with this slide. Again, the students should have a handout about them, so you don't have to give too much information. And you want to touch a little bit about what we're praying for. Another thing that these are frontier people groups. This is where I pulled it from the Joshua Project. There are 31 people groups that make up 1 billion people that have little to no gospel movement in their country or their people group, and little to no missionary presence. And so 31 people groups make up 1 billion people. So these are kind of the top list of people that we should be really praying over and really considering going to. So summarize what we're praying about, why we're praying for it, who these people are, and then you can lead your prayer. Try not to use you can use scripture in your prayer. That is fantastic, but try not to use any of the scripture that's on this slide. Save that for students to use. So if you want to use scripture in your prayer, bring another verse. There are plenty that you could use over this topic. And again, prayer short and sweet, but meaningful and intentional. You'll say your prayer, go sit down, and an owl will come up after 7 minutes and dismiss and close the students. And so once you say your prayer, you're done for the morning. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on Sunday.